But you just can't do that. You can't do that anymore. You can't go into City Hall as a staff member and make these presentations based off of what you think is best, based on your own life experiences. You can't do that. That's called privilege. That's called implicit bias. That's not right for the most amount of people. And the environmentalists, I'm with you. I believe in climate change. We should all drive less. We should all walk more. We should all use public transit. I get it. But I don't think it's fair for the city of Santa Barbara to use climate change and environmentalism as a reason for why they want to reflexively charge more for downtown parking and reduce free time. Because you're basically saying that the least economically fortunate among all of us are responsible disproportionately for climate change, and we're going to punish them. Breaking news, the city of Santa Barbara did something amazing, almost perfectly, just so good at the city council meeting. I'm going to talk about it in just a second. But first, if you are new to this podcast, please hit subscribe on YouTube and visit santabarbaratalks.com and consider making a contribution to support these podcasts. I do them all on my own, separate from all the other work that I do. So please make a financial contribution and support these efforts. So the paid parking program, the idea to reduce free parking to 15 minutes alone and then charge a whole bunch of fees for downtown and surface lots, crashed and burned at the Santa Barbara City Council on Wednesday. Okay, so this was amazing. This was like one of the most unreal meetings I've seen covering city of Santa Barbara in 20 years. But here are my top 10 reasons why it failed. Okay, so number 10, poor messaging. So what do I mean by that? Okay, the city's public works department botched this big time. They took an internal message, okay? Things they talk about in a technical way, in a public works way, in a streets infrastructure way, that's an internal conversation. Those are important conversations to have. But then they took that internal conversation and tried to turn it into an external conversation, which doesn't work. Regular people who have their jobs who are not in public works, they don't think like how those people think. The internal must think of how to tell the external through storytelling. You have to make the case for why the public should support an increase in fees or a reduction in free parking time, and why that matters, why that's important to the whole city of Santa Barbara. That was not done. Instead, they took their internal, we know best attitude and tried to just like present it to the council and expect the media to be like, oh, great job, you know. But more importantly, the media, the public was totally in opposition to this. So yes, poor messaging, number 10. Okay, number 9, it's just bad timing. Okay, you don't want to enroll something like this in an election year. You have 3 people running for city council re-election this year. They don't want to be on record raising downtown parking fees and raising fees in city lots. And I know if you're in public works, you're thinking, you keep saying raising fees. We're not raising fees. Okay, again, that's your internal messaging. You're not raising fees. You're reducing the amount of free time, which means people are going to have to pay more because then the fees are going to go up. So semantics. The council is not going to support something like this in an election year. There's too much downside for them. So again, politically, not a good year to try to do this because the council is not going to put their neck out there and be like, yeah, let's support this massive overhaul of downtown parking. And people are going to vote against us because of it. So bad timing. Number 8, lack of cultural understanding. I think the public works staff, every one of them who presented this seems to think that Santa Barbara is full of a bunch of 30 somethings who make 200 grand a year working at tech companies, and they just want to whiz downtown to pick up their takeout orders and go back home or go back to lunch in their cars, and 15 minutes is all that they need. Like, who do they think Santa Barbara is? Like we already know fewer people are working downtown. COVID-19, employers let people work remotely, and they kind of figure out a way to make it work in many cases. So fewer people are working downtown. So who is this idea? Who are these people you're imagining are just cruising downtown for 15 minutes and then leaving and going on about their lives? Like, who do you think actually goes downtown? Right? I don't understand it. A lack of cultural understanding of who the people are that travel to park in city lots, in garages, and on city streets. They're locals who have jobs, who work downtown, who are shopping downtown, who are eating downtown, who are running errands with their family downtown. There's all kinds of different people. It isn't just rich, wealthy people from a certain economic scale who can just type into their app, oh yeah, I'll stay another 15 minutes and pay a little bit more money. Great, my life's perfect. Like, that's what you were trying to sell to the council. Santa Barbara's way more diverse than that. Okay, number 7, in case you haven't noticed, Public Works Department, there is massive confusion and chaos going on around State Street. We have a State Street master plan that is taking a long time. I know they're making progress. Eventually, they're going to roll out some ideas later this year. There's no funding for it, by the way. So we have that going on. And then we have this whole situation with outdoor dining and the parklets and bikes and pedestrians. And is it going to be a promenade? We've got the interim operations. We got all this stuff going on. And we got businesses folding, closing. Wendy Foster is closing, just the latest of many businesses to close on State Street. Some are opening too. Of course, there's all this turmoil. They want to build housing at Paseo Nuevo. Everything's going on. It's not a good idea to introduce another complication into this conversation right now. Essentially creating a scenario where you're going to put housing downtown, create all this new energy, supposedly, and then you're going to have people, having to pay to park downtown, or you're going to figure that out later. It doesn't make sense. At a time when State Street is out of control with these differing viewpoints of what the future holds, it is not a good idea to try to introduce this dramatic change in how people go downtown and park. Okay. Number 6, this plan was too much too soon. Okay. They wanted to do, I'm going to try to say it quickly. They wanted to install, they're not calling it meters, but it's pay by plate infrastructure. So if you go downtown, you would put in your license plate to your app. If you didn't have a card, you could go to, we're going to install these actual kiosks on every block, and you can put in cash and say, here's where I'm going to park, and here's how long I'm going to park. And if you go over 15 minutes, you can just go on your smartphone and add more time. They wanted to reduce the amount of free parking from 75 minutes to 15 minutes in the surface lots, and reduce it from 75 to 60 in the garages. But then you'd only have a $10 max per day in the garages, because they're trying to get people to park in their garages. Garages, by the way, are near all the arts stuff. And kind of weird to be saying it's like cheaper to park up there where all the fancy people are going out and recreating for the art stuff, but not Lower State Street. You're going to have to move your car more. But that's another item here. Okay, it's too much too soon. They want to do all of this in 1 year. They enrolled it at a budget hearing, then a finance committee, and then again another specific meeting on this. No, you can't force people to do all of this change all at once. Just spoon feed it, a little bit at a time. Try a couple of blocks, try one lot. You can't expect people to buy into wholesale change. It's just dumb. Even if it's the greatest idea in the world, it's dumb politically to do this. It's not going to work. So too much, too soon. They should have figured out a way. This year we're going to do this. Next year we're going to do this. And then eventually here's where we want to go. But no, they did not do that. Okay, the other part of it was this 15-minute idea that I just outlined. Number 5, who can do anything in 15 minutes? They were trying to say that most people get around Santa Barbara without paying. It's like total 70% of people can go downtown, park, and move their cars before they're actually charged in a lot or a garage. Okay, and then people don't get tickets if they move their cars within 75 minutes. And so they're trying to say that everything can be done in 15 minutes. Just move in and out. And if you work downtown, we're going to sell you a pass. So you can park $70 a month and do that. It's mind boggling to think that anything can be done in 15 minutes. If you have groceries, right? If you're shopping, if you have a takeout order, that takes time to sort of like make it happen. You're waiting in line, you're waiting for a ticket, you're waiting for a receipt, you're waiting for the check. Heaven forbid, sometimes when I'm downtown, I see people I know and they're like, "Hey, Josh, how's it going? How's it been?" So now I'll be like, "I'm sorry, I got to get out of here because I'm only going to park 15 minutes." And, "Oh, let me go and pay more on my app so I can keep talking to you." That's not awkward. Okay. 15 minutes is not enough time to do anything. You can't even find a space in 15 minutes. I think the public works people should go do a demonstration and go drive down and find a space and then go pick up your takeout order and get out of there in 15 minutes and put it on video, put it on city TV, and show the world how easy this is. Because this idea that 15 minutes is long enough to do anything. I can't even finish this podcast in 15 minutes, right? Okay, number 4. There's too many assumptions being made about how people behave and how they move and how they interact. It's a total villainization of people who park their cars downtown. I gotta tell you, I used to work at this Pacific Coast Business Times. Hated it. Hated that job with a passion. Anyone who knows me knows that I've stayed in journalism, mostly done some PR work. I love journalism, right? And I've had a lot of jobs. I worked at the Pacific Coast Business Times. They did not pay for parking. It was downtown on Carrillo Street. I had to do the 75-minute shuffle, right? Because that is better than getting the downtown parking pass, which is what, $165, whatever it is now. Or I'll just take my chances, because if you're a journalist, hello, you don't make a lot of money. And so you're trying to save money every chance you get. Okay. So people are doing the 75-minute shuffle. Is it good for the environment? No, it's not good for the environment. Is it good as far as productivity at your job? No. But that's the employer's thing. You're putting that on, you're villainizing these employees, these workers who are just trying to save some money by moving their car and making them feel like you are the problem for climate change. Like, give me a break, okay? The idea that you're saying people try to move their cars every 75 minutes, that is true, but it's not like they want to. It's not like it's like, hey, let me go scam the system, or as Ed France said, let me go gamify my approach to downtown. It's not that. It's just people doing all the things that you do in your own way to try to save a buck. The other thing is there's this preconceived notion that you can pick out a takeout order downtown. I would love to know where I can order food, go downtown, park, pick it up within 15 minutes and be back and gone. Please let me know where I can do that. The other thing was they said, oh, well, a movie and dinner, 4.5 hours, it's going to cost you this much. It was the height of privilege and entitlement. And I'm not going to go all race with this because I don't think it's a race issue. It's a privilege issue. And you can have privilege mostly, in my opinion, through your status, your economics, your experiences. And it's the height of privilege and entitlement to sit there and say to the Santa Barbara City Council and the public that this is how long it should take you to do these activities, because in my experience, this is how long it takes me to do my activities. That is insane. I don't want to be monitored, micromanaged, or told how long it should take me to do whatever I'm going to do downtown. It's none of your business what I'm doing downtown, and it's none of your business how long it takes me to do it, and to sort of say, well, it's only going to cost you this amount of money if you do the things that we think you should be doing downtown. So stop complaining. No, that's just, no, that's a big, like, no, don't do that. This is a shared space. This isn't a private lot. This is State Street. This is downtown. I can do whatever I want and stay as long as I want. And don't tell me that if I do it the right way, I'm only going to have to pay a certain amount of money. And that's just me. I have a family. I have things that I do, but we're diverse. Everybody, no matter where they're at, they can do whatever they want and not be told that you're actually going to be saving money if you only do these things, which is coffee, a takeout meal, a dinner, and a movie. So don't like assume my patterns. So that's another problem with this presentation. It was assuming how people live and how they behave. And again, it's going back to the fact that basically, and I'll just put it out there, they were describing what middle class white people with a higher upper echelon income might do. And forget the 40% of Santa Barbara who is not that. Okay. It's probably a larger percentage than that. We're broken up and we all do different things. Okay. So whoever, if they introduce this next year, no disrespect, somebody else needs to give that presentation, or that presentation needs to be overhauled, because there's no soft skills, too many assumptions. Don't villainize the car people. Okay. Number 3, anti-car bias. So this is a good transition. All right. I understand. I fully understand. Fossil fuels are bad for the environment. Climate change is real, and everything people do that uses fossil fuels increases the amount of damage we do to this planet and to this earth. Okay. However, this idea that you're blaming somebody who drives downtown for climate change and using that as an excuse for why we should make them pay to park, because we shouldn't have everyone else paying for their right to park downtown, is absurd. Everything is subsidized. Like, it's a public street. These are public parking lots. We are taxed for these services. And you're saying that if you're in a car, we don't want you lingering. We don't want you hanging around downtown. We want you in and out for what, by the way? To make room for more cars. I don't know how you can simultaneously say, City of Santa Barbara, that there's not a lot of people coming downtown, and so we want to charge more to encourage people to move their cars more often, which will basically bring more people downtown to make more money for you. But I thought people weren't coming downtown. I thought this was a problem. It doesn't add up mathematically or logically. Okay? You are biased against people who drive cars from a philosophical perspective. You're essentially saying, we don't want to subsidize this because we don't like the fact that driving cars contributes to the problems on the planet. Well, newsflash, everything contributes to problems on the planet. Electric vehicles do, okay? Unless you're walking, and even that, if you're a hardcore scientist, climate change person, even that contributes. The best thing to stop climate change is to do nothing. Okay? None of us are going to do that, though. We all have to move. We all have to consume. And so stop villainizing the people who drive cars, because the people who drive cars, I guarantee you, most of the people in that room on a Wednesday from the Public Works, I bet they drove a car to get to work. I know many of the council members do. So it should not be a battle, a conversation between environmentalists and people who use their car to get downtown. That's a false debate, and it's unfair because everybody does both. And people who drive cars are still environmentalists. Okay. So that is another reason this thing is totally presented as pro bicycle, pro pedestrian, and anti-car. And you can't do that in Santa Barbara. It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to approach a big policy change like this, you need to be inclusive and you need to storytell. To go back to the first one in the public relations, You can't just go out there and say, we give away 70% of our goods and services. And I don't know any private business that would survive if they did that as well. Hello, you're a government. Everything government does, it subsidizes. Like, it's not supposed to be a for-profit business like a private company. Of course, a private company can't survive like this, but your government, right? The whole reason you exist is because people contribute money and sales tax and all kinds of taxes to allow you to exist. Okay, that we're subsidizing your job for you to work there. Okay, so that's got to go. It cannot be a conversation that cars are bad for the environment, because I don't see how you're going to blame the person who drives the car. It's like the big corporations, all right? Big corporations. We've got the farmers, they use all of the water, the people flying on jets. Like, go after those people. Don't punish some family for wanting a nice parking space to go downtown. It's absurd. Okay, number two, why this paid parking program failed. Kristen Snaden, she was amazing. And by the way, she's the biggest environmentalist on the city council. She knows climate change better than anyone in public works or anyone who spoke on that day. And she understands that this is not a issue about climate change. This is an issue about equity. And Kristen Snaden outlined it so well. She said, hey, we're trying to do all this stuff to revitalize downtown. We're redoing the urban plaza, De La Guerra Plaza, and we're going to now charge people to come downtown and park. De La Guerra Plaza historically has been a place of protests, rallies. I mean, every year, multiple times a year, people gather there to protest, to speak out, to show their activism, take a stand. And now we're going to say, come take a stand on your issue and also pay the city of Santa Barbara to do it. She laid it out there very clearly and just said, no, this is a bad idea. And also she made the point too, this is not a proposal that works for most of Santa Barbara. It works in the textbook heads of people who don't have a long history of how people work in Santa Barbara. And that may not be everyone in public works. I know it's some of them. Okay. So she was really smart. Not only did she smash this proposal, she's leading this effort to make it no longer an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund, meaning it's supposed to be self-sustaining. She's saying it's already general fund subsidized. So let's make it fully general fund subsidized. And let's just be honest about how this program is being funded, because it's got capital projects that are needed, improvements. They need to do all sorts of things to enhance the garages, and that benefits everybody. So she's a real player here. And I'm hearing she's not going to run for mayor. She's also a full-time teacher, which is quite frankly a much better job than being on the city council. So if that's what she wants to do, then that's what she wants to do. But her ideas are great. And here's an idea that she really made an impact on. Okay. And number one reason why this paid parking program failed, it's just a bad idea. Okay. You can't sell people on an idea that just does not work. We're not San Francisco. We're not Los Angeles. We're not some big metropolitan urban area. The whole reason why you'd want a metered parking or a pay-by-plate parking with kiosks and apps and software and all of these different ways to charge people more is if you have more cars coming downtown than you have spaces for. And so public works, when you're in that situation, maybe this idea is worth consideration. But we're not in this situation. Not enough people are going downtown. We have plenty of capacity in our lots. People can find a space in a city lot. So there's no need to punish the few people who are coming downtown. Parking on the streets, yes, it's tough. So you want to install what? Metered parking, or I'm sorry, pay by plate parking, and get people moving in and out. You want to further climate change? Is that what you want people to do? You don't want them to just be able to stay there. Instead, you'd like them to, I mean, I guess you justify climate change if it means the city's getting more money because of it, because that doesn't make any sense either. It is hard to get a space on the streets, and that is life. And sometimes you have to circle. But as far as emissions go, forcing people to leave every 15 minutes is far worse than a few people circling blocks to find a spot close to where they want to go. And that hypocrisy is what screamed throughout all of these presentations. This failure to understand that what was being proposed is a bad idea. Okay. So maybe someday the city of Santa Barbara needs to figure out a way to increase parking revenue. But if they're going to do that, they need to sell it better. They need to come up with a better story. They need to figure out a plan that works for Santa Barbara, for the people who actually live here. The presentation was focused on 30-something people with expendable income, and that is embarrassing. And there aren't maybe a lot of people paying attention. I know I pay attention. I know some other people in the media pay attention. Certainly Kristen Snaden and most of the city council was paying attention. But you just can't do that. You can't do that anymore. You can't go into City Hall as a staff member and make these presentations based off of what you think is best, based on your own life experiences. You can't do that. That's called privilege. That's called implicit bias. That's not right for the most amount of people. And the environmentalists, I'm with you. I believe in climate change. We should all drive less. We should all walk more. We should all use public transit. I get it. But I don't think it's fair for the city of Santa Barbara to use climate change and environmentalism as a reason for why they want to reflexively charge more for downtown parking and reduce free time. Because you're basically saying that the least economically fortunate among all of us are responsible disproportionately for climate change, and we're going to punish them. And that is wrong. And this is why you're supposed to have training in these issues. Okay. It's not, racism, classism. These things don't exist in overt ways very much anymore. They do for some people, I know, but they don't exist most of the time in overt ways. They exist in little small ways that are insidious, like this proposal. This proposal will not hurt the environmentalists. It will not hurt the people who make a lot of money or a good amount of money. It's going to hurt the families. It's going to hurt people, individuals already struggling. By the way, a couple of days ago, they were talking about a sales tax. Okay. It's going to hurt those people. So it's a bad idea. You can't do that. And fortunately, the Santa Barbara City Council saw that. And Kristen Snaden said, we should do more free time, extend it to 90 minutes, come up with a locals pass, come up with a plan for downtown employees to be able to work and subsidize it for them. That is much better than sitting at a city council meeting and villainizing people who can't afford another little nickel and diming of their pocketbook just because Public Works can't be creative enough to figure out a solution to what is a structural deficit and has been a structural deficit for years. As Megan Harmon says, use some of those reserves. City uses those reserves every year anyway. Let's plan on using some of those reserves, whatever the idea is. Hopefully, the next time they try to do something like this, they figure out a way to include everyone in the conversation, not just the people in their inner circle. Thanks again. Please hit subscribe on YouTube. Visit SantaBarbaraTalks.com and consider making a contribution. Have a great day.